the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just drop. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Welcome back, DFS Army. We are taking another look at Yahoo NFL Week 3 DFS main slates. We actually have some exciting news. We now have Domination Station, Yahoo in the Dom Station. So we can build all our tournament lineups. We can look at fantasy points per dollar, projections, ownership will certainly come. So first test run this week, but the tools, the optimizer that has won multiple DFS Army subscribers and staff members $1 million. We now have access to that on Yahoo, where we have not nearly as sharp as the field, a lot of overlay. So super excited to get into tournaments, to get building over there. And we're going to take a look at that. But let's first look back at what we did in week 2 real quick as far as our cash lineups. And then we're going to look at the cash plays, top stack of the week, and some leverage plays. So let's. All right, so each and every week over at dfsarmy.com, I break down the Yahoo slate. So we're looking at the top plays, cash plays. So last week, we paid up for Lamar Jackson and totally paid off. We got 42 points. DraftKings, we did on Yahoo. We also had Amon St. Brown smashed with 34 points. And really, it was a matter of just eating the chalk we were able to stomach. Modest performances from the rest of our lineup, which running backs, they didn't do very well. A lot of the chalk didn't do very well last week, but if you found a way to pay up for Lamar by playing like Ashton Doolin, for example, you did very well. So in cash, we look for high floor players. We look for chalk so that we can basically have somewhat of a safety net. For example, everyone played Saquon Barkley last week. Well, at 40 to 60% ownership, if he failed, it didn't matter because the field had him too. You're only trying to be 50% of the field. When we look to week 3 and the plays that we want to play for high floor, we're going to look to the Vegas total. So we have a lot of heavy hitters back on the main slate. We have Miami coming off that huge game against Baltimore. We have Buffalo to just absolutely have been on fire the first 2 games of the season. They look like a super team. No one's going to stand in their way to win the Super Bowl. It's a long season. We'll see. But as far as fantasy, we love that. So we're going to get as many Buffalo players as we can afford. Same thing with Detroit and Minnesota. It's kind of surprising that is game tied with Buffalo and Miami is the highest game on the slate. Minnesota didn't look very good, but Detroit's been better. And Kirk Cousins isn't in prime time. So maybe this can be a bounce back game. Vegas certainly thinks so. That's the second highest game on the slate at 52.5. We got Kansas City and Indy. Indy looked horrible last week, looking to bounce back though. Jacksonville just has their number. They're going against Kansas City. Hopefully they get Pittman back. They'll certainly help things. 50.5. And then we got the Rams and Arizona Cardinals. They both, after week 1 losses, they both looked very good last week offensively. 48.5 game total between these two. So when we look at quarterbacks right away, it's pretty easy. I don't know how Josh Allen, Yahoo, their pricing, this is one of the reasons we play Yahoo. Their pricing is kind of upside down sometimes. Justin Herbert, with his hurt ribs, is $40 on Yahoo. So they do a $200 salary cap. Justin Herbert's $40. Somehow Josh Allen, who's had back-to-back 30-point games and is healthy and looks unstoppable, And the highest game total on the slate is $38. Someone explain that to me. It doesn't stop there. So Jalen Hurts, I love him this week. He's probably going to be my cash game play unless I can find enough value to pay up for Josh Allen, because Hurts has been incredible as well. His floor is so high, 75 yards rushing per game, 1.5 touchdowns. He's pretty much 25 to 35 lock at this point, as far as points. Now, the one thing that is crazy to me, and I didn't have really any intention of playing Goff, but when I looked at it, Yahoo does half PPR scoring. Jared Goff is 10th in half PPR scoring for quarterbacks. Yet he is priced on Yahoo as a backup. So every starting quarterback on Yahoo, with the exception of Jared Goff, is $22 or more. Yet Jared Goff is $20, priced with other backups like Gabbert, Simeon, Keenum, Bridgewater. So either Yahoo knows something we don't, and Goff will be benched before the game's over, or they're just crazy on their pricing. And when you look at someone being so vastly underpriced and being in the highest game total on the slate, I certainly will have a lot of exposure to him, and more on that later. So let me take a look here, make sure we're still recording. Awesome. I've had some issues with that. So Joe Mixon, he is one of my cash game plays for the week because he's averaged 28.5 touches over the past 2 games. Awesome matchup this week versus the Jets, who Nick Chubb thrashed for 3 touchdowns last week. And really, we're chasing volume in our cash games floor, and it's a smash spot, and he's really at a good price for his usage. Same thing with Leonard Fournette. Godwin's out. Evans is out. Evans is suspended because him and Marcus Lattimore just love to fight each other, essentially. So he's suspended for a game. Potentially Julio Jones is out because at this point in his career, Julio Jones is always questionable and probably not going to play when he has a questionable tag. So Leonard Fournette, he's touched the ball 24 times in the past 2 games. So this is a good matchup for him. I certainly like him. He's also the top projected owned back on the slate at 15%. So he comes with some of that safety net. Also, David Montgomery, very effective with his touches, average 8 yards per carry in 15 attempts. Last week for Green Bay, he's got a Houston team this week that gave up 122 yards to Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. And he's also the 3rd highest fantasy points per dollar running back this week on the Domination station behind Patterson and Carter. And is projected to score more than both of them. Now, speaking of the Dom station, we're about to get into that. We have Yahoo on here. So the Dom station now has Yahoo fantasy points per dollar, projections, salary, everything we have. So we're about to get on that here in a second. As far as wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, he's always a play in any format because of his usage and efficiency. It's off the charts. 38% target share. It's the best in the league. He's averaged 26 points per game to start the season, and he's certainly priced accordingly. So if you want to play Kupp, you're going to have to make sacrifices in other spots. So you're probably going to have to play Goff and cash, which is certainly in play. Stephon Diggs, he's the best wide receiver in the league at this point, mainly because of his quarterback, and it's not taking anything away from Diggs. He is an elite wide receiver himself. But in that offense, with Josh Allen playing at the level that he's playing, he got 38-point performance on Yahoo, and he's really underpriced considering how elite he is, $31, when, he has the type of ceiling of a Cooper Kupp, for example. Amon St. Brown still underpriced, really, in all reality, as far as his usage, but he's certainly getting there to where more priced where it should be. 33% target share on the season, 26 points through 2 games. He's coming off a GPP performance last week where he was in the Millie Maker. I'm rolling with him again this week in cash. Curtis Samuel, he leads all commanders with 23% target share. He's underpriced for a guy averaging 17 points a game. As long as he's healthy, I'm playing him. Russell Gage, again, Brady has no Evans, no Godwin, probably no Julio. Gage is the guy they target in the offseason to sign. He's only $16. I really like him this week. He's at the DFS Army Domination station. You will see in a minute. He's 9.5 points projected, 2nd highest fantasy points per dollar player. So as far as tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, $16. I prefer typically pay down options at tight end because it's a high variance position. He's as high as I'd probably go, 19% target share, almost 20% after 2 games. So he's had a lot of targets, just hasn't really caught any touchdowns with him. Otherwise, he certainly would be ranked higher as a tight end. Highest projected tight end on the slate from Domination Station, fantasy points per dollar perspective, 0.61. Zach Ertz is right behind him as far as usage and pricing. If you're paying all the way down, I like Juwan Johnson a little more because he did more last week at minimum pricing, 16% target share through 2 games. I do have some consideration for Irv Smith as well at the same price, but I do worry last week because he had a lot of drops and he was heavily targeted. So I wonder if they're going to go away from him. It's definitely a concern. As far as defenses, Carolina Panthers, cash games, same idea. We're looking for pay down options just like we do at tight end. Value from a fantasy points per dollar perspective, and Panthers, they're projected to score 7.5 points. They're $10. Winston turned the ball over 3 times last week. So, that's really the type of offense that we look to target, specifically quarterback. And the Raiders, they have a similar matchup. The Titans have struggled to protect Ryan Tannehill. He had 2 interceptions last week. So, granted, the Raiders defense is not like the Buffalo Bills defense, but, you got a minimally priced defense and it's going against Ryan Tannehill. They lost AJ Brown. They just don't seem to be as good this year. So that's who I like for defenses. Now, I alluded to it earlier, my top stack. You can go a lot of ways with this. So Jared Goff and Amon St. Brown, between the 2 of them, even with Goff being priced, way low and Amon St. Brown being priced way high. So it's $48. Pretty reasonable as far as stacking goes from the highest projected game on the slate, especially the guy who's absolutely been smashing like Amon St. Brown. And then ownership, 18% right now, just below 18%. So again, I like him because there's several reasons. Highest projected game on the slate. Goff is underpriced. You want to exploit pricing inefficiencies. You want to target underpriced players who potentially can exceed their value by a lot. And there's also other pieces in this game that you can stack with. You'll see later. So as far as Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook has had a poor start to the season. Dalvin Cook is a bring back option with high ceiling. So does Justin Jefferson. You can also target, like Swift in that same game, Hawkinson, lower price guys who aren't very high on. So there's so many different ways you can stack it that I really like stacking this game from a lot of different angles over on Yahoo. Now, as far as my top leverage plays, I like Austin Eckler this week, mainly because, well, let's be honest, he's been a disappointment in redraft if you took a first round pick on him or if you paid up for him in DFS. So I like him because after Herbert got hurt, he hurt his ribs, he started to dump off to Eckler a lot. And his target share got a bump. In fact, he's got a 22% target share. Well, Herbert is day to day. So I like Eckler and under 10% ownership if he can get some touchdowns with his usage, then he has the type of ceiling type game that you're looking for. DeAndre Swift, I mentioned Goff earlier on St. Brown. DeAndre Swift under 5%. Swift, same thing. Especially when he gets in open space, he can be electric. Swift is a guy who really can have the type of ceiling game for that game to, if it goes off and you have Swift in the lineup, he could be really the difference between winning or losing in that GPP. Alvin Kamara, love him mainly because the field is almost fading him entirely. Winston, he threw 3 interceptions last week. If they bring Kamara back, if he plays this week, obviously this all hinges on him playing. I like Kamara because the best way, obviously, to get right is to feed Kamara the ball and take it out of Winston's hands a little bit. And from a leverage standpoint, 3%, when I got a back like Kamara who can certainly break the slate, that's a guy I'm willing to take a chance on. Same with Jamar Chase. Recency bias, it can be your biggest enemy in DFS if you allow it to be. You can also be aware of it and play a guy like Jamar Chase going against the Jets as the field fades him. He's at 4%. He was in the winning Millie Maker lineup multiple times last year, especially down the stretch. Let's not forget this team was in the Super Bowl last year. They're incredible. They certainly can get it going, and this is the week to do it if at all possible. Now, I'm a little surprised on this. I'll be surprised if it holds. Jalen Waddle at 5% right now. This is the highest projected game off the slate. 33% target share. Like, after a monster game, and we show that Tua can really do it and have that ceiling, are we really going to only play Jalen Waddle at 5%? We'll see. Mike Williams, if Keenan Allen is out, I'm going right back to him. His target share when Keenan Allen is out is 22%, and he's just very good at getting contested catches. So Adams, he is going to be chalky in this week based on the current projections. Perfect way to get leverage off of that. You play a Waller. We looked at it in the Millie Maker review and MME strategy. You have to play those guys in the same game who are direct leverage off of a guy like Adams. And Waller certainly is going to shape up to be one of those direct leverage plays this week. So let's go over to the Domination station. And oh my goodness, we have Yahoo. So let's take a look real quick. I want to show y'all things are going to look a little different from DraftKings and FanDuel because it's Yahoo. So now projected ownership, this isn't live yet, but give it time. I'm sure this will be ready by the weekend. So you can sort it by projections. You could do fantasy points per dollar. Again, as I mentioned, Jared Goff, look at that. Not even close, 0.85. It's just stupid how underpriced he is this week. Typically, you can do it by ceiling projection. If you're really trying to get that ceiling to take down a large field GPP, you can see who can really stand out. If you got guys who are similarly, priced and maybe owned, when that's showing up, it kind of helps split hairs sometimes. So you could sort by salary. You can do all sorts of things. Now we do the same thing with the running back. So we're going to look at top fantasy points per dollar plays. Cordarrelle Patterson, David Montgomery, Dameon Pierce. Sometimes, specifically when you're building your cash lineups and you go over to the chalkboard and you're like, okay, I like Fournette, which we really play the chalk in cash. I like Fournette. Maybe you like Mixon. You're like, well, I like Diggs. And then, you're like, okay, so what other wide receiver can I get? So I can piece together my cash lineup. Where is the value at? Where is someone cheap? Oh, I can potentially play DJ Chark. Probably not play him in cash because I'm not seeing the target share. But Russell Gage, he got a pretty decent target share last week. He's someone that can potentially be played. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, I believe he has like 11% target share. So you look at things like that, especially tight end. I'm looking for a pay down option. Who's a good fantasy points per dollar play? Juwan Johnson, Irv Smith. These are some of the guys we certainly targeted, and then especially with defense, this is more or less how I'm going to pick my defenses. I'm looking for a pay down option: Carolina Panthers, Las Vegas Raiders, and whatnot. So a couple things too. Now, we're going to dial this in as we look at the baller over on Yahoo. That's a contest. That's their biggest contest over there. They don't do the Millie Maker. Maybe someday they'll do the Millie Maker. So I believe that contest has about 30,000 entries. 30,000 entries, and there's typically a lot of overlay. So you could probably set a cap of like 120%. We are going to do some stacks, disallow more than one pass catcher from the same team unless the quarterback is also stacked. Now they do have PPR. So you get more running backs in the flex over there. Maybe tight end, and we'll say no more than 30%. And really, we're going to do legacy stacking. So let's say we're really on Goff. Let's say we're on Goff this week. Quarterback. So we like Goff with a running back. We like because we can stack him with Swift because he's a pass catcher. and he gets a lot of carries as well, but he gets a lot of catches from out of the backfield. So we like Goff. And then, all right, just making sure we're still recording because, like I said, I've had connection issues. So then we're looking at backs that we like, right? So we're looking at guys who, now these ownerships, we know what they are because we know some guys that we probably targeted in our cash games. So Mixon, he might be chalk, but we love Eckler this week, in fact, and we love Swift. In fact, we adore Swift. We like some of these lower owned guys, which we might have to look back here at some of our leverage plays. We got Kamara. Okay, so let's do Swift, Eckler, Kamara. And the same thing for wide receivers. I'm look at the chalkboard. I do not think that, Justin Jefferson is going to be owned, but he's not going to be crazy owned. And it's, and it kind of goes back to recency bias. Like some of these guys, they're just not going to be super owned when they're coming off a bad week. But we do like, over DFS Army, we like the stud coming off a dud narrative for sure. Cooper Kupp, a little too high price for me, but we love Jamar Chase. We love, T. Higgins could pop off this week too. And they've been horrible. So, it goes back to recency bias. When we look at some of the top plays on the slate this week, we got the Bills. We got exposure to Diggs, Amron. We like Jefferson. Let's get some Juju and MVS in here. And we'll see, closer to the weekend, I'll probably put in Pittman as well. Fantasy points per dollar. Let's see which guys are popping off. Yeah, I love Gage this week. I love me some MVS. And Juju as well. And then let's go to tight end. Again, I would love Irv Smith. No, I don't want him in cash because I'm a little worried, but I would love him in tournaments, especially in stacks with Goff. Juwan Johnson, yeah, we'll play him. I love Ertz as well this week. And then Waller, where is Waller? And you could search here as well. And then we'll go to defense. The thing we're not doing is playing chalk. We're not playing 40% owned defenses. We will not do that. So, some of the other defenses we might like. We got Philly. I could see the Saints given Baker Mayfield problems. Most definitely. The Eagles, I'm sorry, Wentz. He's gone. He's had a cake schedule so far. We'll see how that goes here in a little bit. All right, let's just bust out 50 lineups and we'll see how this goes to start it. So one thing I do when I go to the Dom station is I'm going to put in about 10% randomization because it helps build it a little faster. Now, this is just a test run because really we can't know how these lineups are going to fare when we don't have a total projected ownership, right? Like we we have to dial it in. Like, for example, the Millie Maker, we're pretty much keeping it between 95 to like 100%. If you think the chalk's going to maybe smash that week, if it's going to be a chalky week, you have some, maybe some low price backs because like a Delvin Cook is out and Ellen Matterson slides in and he's low price. We know the lineup's going to be chalkier, so maybe we'll raise it. But typically, we're going to keep it between like 95 and like 100, 110% max. But this is kind of, where we're going to start. And we look through these lineups, we're looking for correlation, we're looking for ceiling, and then we go from there. So there is a little bit of correlation here. We got Hawkinson, we got Delvin Cook, but it's typically, it's kind of not where I want it to be. So we're going to go to quarterbacks. We're going to look at exposures. Right now we got Goff at 14%. We got Allen at 46%. I don't hate that. And really, I don't hate Hurts either. But let's say we're heavily targeting Goff, right? So we want 50%. So we'll bump that up. And we'll see what it does. Okay, so let's look at exposures here. We got 50% Goff. All right, so we got Goff, Swift, Hawkinson, Mixon, Cooks. So let's play with this a little bit. I don't like as much Cooks as we got here. We got entirely too much Cooks. Let's look at some of the other exposures that we got. I don't hate the exposures from the wide receivers. I just don't want a ton of Texans because they just do not have the type of ceiling that you're going to need. Through 2 games, we haven't seen it. Let's run this again. Now, I don't hate these lineups because even though Hurts is ran unstacked, Hurts is a running quarterback, so he doesn't necessarily need to always be stacked. But you have some heavy hitters here: Hurts, Cook, Mixon. Mixon was in the winning Millie Maker 6 times last year. Same with Higgins. So you got a little bit of a team stack there. You got Austin Eckler. So you got quite a few heavy hitters in this lineup. I don't hate it. Obviously, the Domination loves Hurts this week, and that's why he's their cash game quarterback. Definitely going to have a lot of exposure to him as well. Well, let's see what they got for us for our Goff stacks. So I like this one. We got Goff, Swift, Amon St. Brown. We got David Montgomery. We got Cooper Kupp, Russell Gage, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler. This type of lineup is definitely one the Millie Maker large field GPPs like several times where you have basically a team stack, but you're essentially expecting the Lions to blow out Washington, which I'm not sure that I really like that. But nonetheless, well, I'm sorry, not Washington, Minnesota. Let's see if we get like Justin Jefferson in here. He's 8% owned. Okay. And we'll just keep playing with it. Now, this is the first run with the Domination station with Yahoo. So it's not going to, specifically with no projections currently coming in, it's probably not going to run as smoothly as it normally does as far as projected ownership. So that really, especially when you're running the cap, right? Like if there's a player who is, 30 to 40% on, I'm keeping my cap at 90%, he's probably not really going to show up in my lineups at all right now because there's really no projected cap on ownership. You're getting a lot of player mix that you wouldn't normally get. So that's why we are trying to dial this in. Not a bad looking lineup. And the thing is, too, is we can certainly do correlated where we really have way more control over the actual players that get in the lineup for specific teams. But we found using the legacy stacking option, it's been much easier to backtest Millie Maker winners using legacy. It pops up more times than not versus the correlated option. So this is a good lineup I like too. Jared Goff, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Russell Gage, T. Higgins, Amon St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson. So a lot of correlation here. The game stack not popping up too heavily, but we can force that in if we really want, or we can just let the optimizer do his thing. But good first run, kind of gives you an idea. It's really good to see the optimizer for Yahoo. So, we can sort by salaries and all those things. This is so much of the process, and I'm expecting the ownership to be in line by the weekend. So good luck this week. That's going to do it for week 3 of Yahoo look on the DFS and Slate for Yahoo. We will be back. Hope you all win all the monies this week over on Yahoo. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and keep that notification button on so you never miss an episode. And I'm sure by next week we will have a full run of this. So good luck this week. We'll see you all next week.